Rabbi Mordecai here. We're still in that journey, and I don't want to say still because it's like, I mean, this is everything. This is everything. Like rethinking the economy, rethinking where my place is at in this economy, rethinking this matrix system that we live in and how it relates to my tikkun and my soul's correction and myself in the next world. And all these things are playing a part. They're all connected. Like in our generation, like right now, like these things are intricately connected. And today, people are the new brands, and their lives are the new storylines that are intriguing. And the different characters in their lives are the people we're going to fall in love with. And we don't need, movie studios anymore. We don't need record labels. We don't need any of these people to tell the stories for us or contrive the stories. We can do them ourselves, and that information is so valuable to the whole world, right? It's so valuable that people can watch your life, critique your life, and now use that cognitive process that was developed by watching your life and then apply that to their life and be able to improve upon different situations. Like they could look at your life and say, oh, well, right here, maybe he could have been more sensitive, or right there, she could have been, more open, whatever. And they could say, like, they could be in those similar moments and say, wow, I'm going to be different, all the way to like relationships and families. We think about like how powerful the story of the Yosef's family, right? Like they were at a place where the Sanachinam was so high that they literally sold one of their brothers was like to death, you know, and a brother that their father dearly loved, and was very connected to. So it wasn't just getting rid of Yosef, it was also, a statement towards the father and the father's relationship. In over time and through this process of separation and eventually reunification, you know, this family like comes back together after something like that, and it's just like you look at that and you're like, wow, like look at this like amazing process that we learned from that. But since the Torah is so famous and so big, we can now apply that and we can look at other people's lives. And we can look at TV shows and we could look at movies and we can look at these different dynamics and critique it in a way that we gain benefit. Now, the issue is prior, the level of content that has been created has been content that gave the perception that fulfilling the body and dealing with the body's needs and the emotions in those worlds, it gave us the impression that that was a connection to a certain aspect of fulfillment. That's what all the movies, the TV shows, everything, all the visual and audio content that's been created is giving this kind of like impression that dealing with the body consciousness, which also includes emotions, that the intensity of that and the passion of that is a connection to fulfillment. And so we've been watching those images for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And I'm saying, like, I'm talking about plays, all types of things, like storylines, not just like cinema, right? And so we've been watching the stories for so long, and now it's ingrained in our head, and we totally believe that the body consciousness, that there's an aspect of fulfillment to it. I don't like want to make the visual, but there's like, there's people who are like basically like prostitutes, right? And they film themselves, right? And I'm saying this is a very important point. And they film themselves, and in some of these prostitutes that film themselves, they sell it, they make money from it, and even some of them go as far where they do these like massive like extravaganza where like a woman would be with like a ton of men, right? A ton of men, and they'll just videotape it. It's like a whole thing. It's like some weird like type of like dark place. And I hate to like, you know, bring such an idea in in this conversation, but it's just to say that that woman who's with all these men is a microcosm to all of the false perceptions of fulfillment that we go through, that separate us from Hashem, that we think is this path to happiness, this path to fulfillment. But it's not the Torah. But I don't know, I got to do me. I got to do what I got to do. I got to get mine. I got to do me. I know that's what the Torah says. Okay, fine, but I got to do me. I'm, you know, it's between me and God. All that lady wants is to be fulfilled, right? That's what she's with those men. She has an aspect of pleasure connected to that, and she's been convinced that that aspect of pleasure can potentially lead her to fulfillment. She believes that. She believes it. That like she believes that if she, you know, just one more guy, maybe that total fulfillment, that connection would happen, and I'll feel something, even if it dies, you know, through every false attempt for fulfillment, still she continues on. And it's like, you know what, I would have to compare that to us. You know, I would have to say, like, you know what, we're out here in the world and we believe so many ideas are connected to aspects of fulfillment. We have fashion, we have status, we have class, we have money, we have luxury, we have items, you know? You know, we have all these, you know, we have all these different, you know, types of, you know, dynamics in front of us. And we believed that if we just had this, we'd be happy. Or if we just did this particular thing, or we were, you know, accepted in this way, or we had this amount, or, you know, if we just grew up in a particular place, you know, we would say like, hey, you know what? That's almost the same thing, right? It's a false path of fulfillment, and it's a lot of it. So that's the challenge, right? The challenge is to be able to imagine a new self, right? And in that process of imagining a new self, you gain different objectives because then you understand what your needs truly are, not the needs that you've convinced yourself that defined you. So now when we're talking about people and the value of their lives and the value of their ability to take their experiences in their life and now become a form of strength for people, that like you could literally find, like imagine like any information that you need. It's kind of like how Google is now, right? Or YouTube, how everything kind of like interacts in that way, but it's even more personalized. You know what I'm saying? Like it's more personalized where you can literally get advice on any topic, or you can learn about any topic, or you can see people living with all different types of beliefs. Like your life is like a hashtag, right? Everything about you is a hashtag, and it's a way to identify every unique aspect, every chamber of yourself, and making that accessible to the world. Because it's not yours, it's Hashem. Hashem gave you all these things to be able to share in the world and to be able to bring light to the world and to be able to, you know, help creation move forward, express more of itself. So that place, that's what we're holding at. This is the new creativity. So how do I get to a place within myself that I shift my consciousness from being the, per se, the consumer. How do I leave being the consumer and turn into the producer? How do I leave that consciousness? How do I shift that consciousness of being a consumer and I'm totally defined by what I have consumed and what I've obtained, to going into a consciousness of, no, I am what I create in the world. I am what I create in the world. When I first came to, Israel, like I love fashion. I used to write for Vogue Japan. Um, Most of the stuff that I was involved in the entertainment business was like very much connected to like fashion. I was in it when I was in the entertainment business, it really went into what they call like this 360 world, meaning that like before, like a music artist would just get like a record deal, right? So they'll come and they'll agree to give you a certain amount of money to record an album, and then they'll distribute it, and you guys will share revenues, right? So that's what it used to be, and then it progressed into, oh, well, not only do we want to make money from the record sales, we want to make money from your ticket sales from concerts. We want to make money from your merchandise. We want to make money from endorsements, whatever, all types of things. So like when I came in, when you're thinking about music artists or anything, you're thinking about it like from like, how can you monetize all these areas, right? So fashion was a very big part of the culture that I was in business wise, in Los Angeles. So like fashion was like a big thing. So most of the things that I was involved in had a very big fashion basis. Like, I mean, the movements that I created, the jerky movement, skinny jeans, it really was about viral videos, right? And kids being creative with viral videos, but the backdrop was fashion. So that world of being able to shift our consciousness from saying that, hey, instead of me consuming these other stories, now I have to produce my own story. And I have to reassess my life. And I have to be able to apply the value points of my life into the world sphere in the same way that when I had a resume, I took my resume for my job and I put it into all these specific types of companies that I thought I could bring value to. In that same way, this is my life and my information that I have, I could even apply it to a much bigger world. And so this is where I'm at now. So how do I get to that place where I stop seeing myself as just like a small person, as someone who's insignificant, right? Someone who's driven by their physical desires. How do we get to that place? What do we need to let go of? Like say like the whole journey of the Israelites, right? And they're wondering and they're going around and they're getting close to going to Eretz Israel. And then there were, obviously there were people who wanted to go in, but the story is the leadership, that was there, said, it's not good, we shouldn't do it. And the people follow along with that. The next generation did go in, right? But a lot of the people who were there in that journey died because of that decision. So if we took that scenario and we applied it to ourselves and say, hey, maybe there's a part of me that's Moshe, maybe there's a part of me that's the Moradin, the spies, and maybe there's a part of me that's B'nai Israel. There's like these three conflicted parts. There's a part of me that knows the truth. There's a part of me that is denying the truth. And then there's a part of me that is listening to what the dominant voices at the time says, right? All these things are going on. And maybe this is reflective of my personal consciousness as I get closer to my land of Israel, that there's going to be a part of me that has total doubt in what I'm doing. There's going to be a part of me that knows it's going to work out because this whole information, this whole journey was created by God, and I'm just a participant. And then there's another part of me that's just kind of like mundane, right? That's just kind of like, whatever, man, I just go whatever. And in on this journey, each of those voices are more dominant, right? Sometimes the mundane part is dominant, sometimes the truthful part is dominant, sometimes the non-truth is dominant. These are all like reflections of us inside, right? We can look at the Torah in that way. And so looking at it in that way, that these are reflections of my internal self, of my internal conflicts, and as it relates to going into my promised land, my place of milk and honey, right? And then the Torah is saying, well, you know what? In order for that to happen, that voice of doubt has to go. It has to die off. And it has, and it has to die off because that voice is not allowed in your land of milk and honey. In your personal place, your personal destination, where you're supposed to make it to, that place that no one knows about, no matter how wise and how much of a mukubal or this, whatever, no one determines someone's fate with the stars, other than Hashem. And Hashem gives us the power to influence the stars, to influence our destiny. That's what Hashem gives us the ability to do. So no one can determine, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what you're not. That's irrelevant because it's about the power of my soul. Those are just garments. Who I am, what my parents are, what my background is, who I am, this problem, this disability, that. Those are just garments. My soul is perfect. And so from that place, this is how I'm engaging with the world. Because this is the MS. This is there's everything would say that if I have the merit to keep the Torah in a legal dynamic, that my soul is blessed. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. A person could be from the worst of anything. It's irrelevant. That's the Kiddush, right? Is that person, that soul came from the soul that has the merit to keep the mitzvot came from that. That's the Kiddush, right? That's the whole point. That's the whole concept. That's the whole concept of the ger, right? That's the whole concept. It doesn't matter. Oh, well, this person came from this background. This person's from Calabasas. Wow, like get a really great family. Wow. So it's irrelevant. It was the fact that I didn't fall into materialism, that I was able to at least have enough dot to question even that. That's the Kiddush. Not that he had a perfect life. The fact that he was able to look through all that and still say, no, I want Hashem. I want Hashem. I don't care about any of this. I want Hashem. Please give me Hashem. I don't care. Give me Hashem. Like that's the Kiddush. So the person who comes from the bad neighborhood, same thing. It's not that they came from the bad neighborhood. It was the fact that they saw that world and they were able to see past it. They had inspiration past it. And they were able to move forward. That's the same person. To think that these things are different, okay, fine. Either way, the point is both of those neshamas were in the klipa. There was no light. It's like people like go to like the White House and they taking pictures in front of it. Like it's holy. Like, but for them, that's the apex. Like that's their basic mikdash. That's their basic. They stand in front of Lincoln's monument. These places, that's their basic mikdash. That's their avos. That's their avos. George Washington, John Adams. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, this is like this is like their avos. So this society, I mean, it's not even in the game. So the fact that that soul was able to make it out of that, and it's huge. This Koshek is huge. In America, is huge. We have the White House. Where's the White House? Oh wow, Hesed. Wow. Wow, it's the House of Hesed. Wow, amazing. The Oval Office. Wow, Oval. Wow, cycles of life. Wow. Wow, amazing. It's like it's only the base of Mikdash. That's it. It's nothing. It's like it's like the basic Mikdash isn't even. It's like the basic Mikdash is it's like the Israelites are secondary. It's the life force of Hashem that's coming into this world. Like that's the job of that, is for the life force of Hashem to come in this world, not to make executive decisions. It's not what it's about. The basic Mikdash is about avoda. It's not like a secret room in a basic Mikdash where they're just dealing with political issues. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong, there were armies, the whole thing, generals, great generals, humongous people, for sure. But the point of the basic Mikdash was to do avoda. And that avoda is what created the protection and built an army and brought prosperity to the world. Right? It was through that frame of reference, because that was a connection. It was like a plug into the insult, to the endless reality, into this world, like a direct pipeline. That's what the base of Mikdash is. So I want. So what is the White House? Help me understand that. I just want to say. I'm just saying, like, is it holy? Like, it was holy. Like, was it built? Like, I think the White House was built by slaves. It was built by slaves. You know. So is it holy? Again, and everyone knows how much of a fan I am of America, how proud I am of the country. But I'm saying we have to put it in proportion. Even America needs to be elevated, period. So we can't be in denial. You know, we can't play games with ourselves. We have to say, like, hey, you know what, this is reality. So anyways, so moving forward is being able to reassess ourselves and to be able to see a new world of people who are looking for solutions, a world that people are not occupied, right? You know, they said, like, during the generation of Noah, that, you know, Noah brought this idea of menucha, this idea of rest, you know, to the world. You know, his name, you know, is connected to the idea of rest, because they said, like, Noah, like, had an extra finger, and from this extra finger he was able to create new types of tools, and these new types of tools, you know, created this whole new set of innovations for his generation. And the concept of manual labor was, like, in many ways, like, diminished, and they went into a new era, you know. And so it's like, it's a similar kind of idea over here. It's like, what is that new body part? Sekel, dot, right? In a world that you're being flooded with information and ideas, like, every second, the aspect of the innovation for a generation, this generation, is dot, the ability to differentiate between truth and falsehood. What's good for me and what's bad for me. Propaganda versus truth. The people who have that ability to discern and think in that way will be able to navigate and be able to get to the world's wealth, because it's wide open, and that's why the distractions are so great. The world is wide open. and little people could become big people. Family lines can be nobodies and become aristocracy. It's a new global world. So the more people are distracted and fighting and bickering amongst each other, okay, cool. It gives us more time to have less competition, figuring out how to capitalize on this new reality. Being American, being Jewish, being in the world, being in Israel. You know, this is like a huge thing. So let's get distracted. You know, let's talk about other people. Let's let's get jealous. Let's not get inspired. Let's get jealous. You want to get jealous because you don't want to get inspired, because if you got inspired, then you would have to do something. But if you're jealous, you could just be angry and maybe just have to deal with the fact that you feel jealous, but you feel it's deserve it, whatever. The point is just saying that this is where we're at. How do I reassess my value, my worth, who I am? You know how much you have to love God to see how valuable you are? Like, you gotta think about the love of God, Ahavas Hashem, in self-promoting is like one and together. You think it's the opposite. You think the person who's a self-promoter, is a person who is arrogant, is boastful, is further away from God, right? Like that's the idea, right? Like that person, he's not humble. No, in this era, the person who is able to look at themselves objectively and to be able to departmentalize all their aspects of their uniqueness is a person who's devoid of self-interest in their analyzation. Meaning that, like, they're not worried about, feeling bad about themselves. They're not worried about judging themselves, because they have already got past that consciousness where they see themselves as just a creation of Hashem. Like, they didn't create their body, they didn't create their mind, they didn't create anything. Hashem created it and he gave it to us as a Rahmanis. And our job is to sit back and analyze all the different parts of ourselves in our lives and be like, wow, look what Hashem did for me. Look how he did this. Look how perfect this is. In the frame of our tikkun. Not in the frame of the media space that's been giving us images based around only the body consciousness. The movies that we watch don't discuss the soul, or the characters are not on a mission to correct your neshamas. Name me the movie. You know what I mean? Where it's blatantly expressed in that way. So the point is just saying that where does that come in at? You know what I mean? Where does that idea come in at? Where does that idea of that I'm an egomaniac because I want to share the valuable things that Hashem created with the world. It's the opposite. If I think that I created everything and everything's about me, you can't departmentalize yourself. You're too insecure. It's too fragile. You have things you're ashamed of. You don't want people to know. You can reveal yourself. You can maybe reveal a little bit. Maybe you can take a picture. Maybe you can do a little video clip. But to totally reveal yourself, to become art, to become something people could believe in and trust, you know what it takes? You know what type of self-revealment that takes? You think you could do that with arrogance? Only through humility. Hashem created this. I want to experience what Hashem created. I'm like, wow, I'm looking that way. Eat my life. Like, so you see these people, like, they tell their stories, about like where they grew up and the difficulties and the things they had to overcome. And they're saying it in retrospect, and they're a big success. They were able to see the beauty of their lives based off of what they say, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. When they got to that place of their pot of gold, then they look back And they're like, wow, it was like one big journey. It was one big rainbow. You know, it was one big, you know, process of discovery for me to be able to get to this point. What an amazing journey, you know? And people have that. They have that dynamic. So that's what we're trying to get to. That destination where we could look back on our life and say, hey, you know what? The fact that I went through that was the best thing that happened to me because it made me do this and it made me do that. And I'm so glad that I bittled myself in this way. It really allowed my relationship just to keep going. And ultimately, I just created this amazing family. You know, and people always say, like, you know, for me, you know, my philosophy in life is like, you know what? Maybe coulda, woulda, shoulda is fine. Maybe this, maybe that. But I'm a believer is just do it. You know, I'm holding by Nike. Just do it. Just make it happen. You want to have a successful life, make it happen. You want to have a successful family, make it happen. Because this isn't success, it's not based off of your self-worth. Success is based off of, you know, some type of system or mechanism that you become good at. That's it. You could be the worst person or you could be the best person. It's just about who's good at that mechanism. If you're good at it, you're good at it. So this is the recreation process that we're talking about. And to be truthful, like when you think about the energy of a dar, right? When you think about the energy of a dar, this is really the month that a person can leave the consciousness of being a small person and becoming a great person. What are my proofs? Moshe Rabbeinu, Purim. Both of those experiences are based around people who were relatively small people, or they had a perception of seeing themselves in a certain way. And through a series of scenarios, all of a sudden they become humongous in that same time. And so that whole pasuk in Esther that refers to the beginning of Adar is one way and it ends another way. You know, it's this is the energy that's available this month. You know, we could really draw down and have that kavana with all the mitzvot that we do and our voda, everything that we do, we have in mind is connecting to this light of transformation. That Mordecai was outside of the palace and eventually he ended up inside the palace. Moshe Rabbeinu was a shepherd and then eventually became the leader of Klal Israel, speaking God to God face to face. The Jewish people were in tyranny, thought that their lives were going to be over, and then they eventually came and took over everything. This is the power. This is the power of this month. How big do you want to go? How big do you want to do? How many people do you want to reach? How many souls do you want to touch? This is the thought process. And be brave to imagine yourself in the light in a way that no one else, looks at themselves. Don't think like, I mean, you see these guys now, they have like billion streams or 2 billion streams, whatever. And it seems like a lot. But the first guys at something aren't always the guys who make, the most money or even make the biggest impact, right? So they're early, but at the end of the day, you know what? Truthfully, you could do 1 billion streams in 24 hours. You know what I'm saying? So it's just saying that like it's about like imagining a whole new reality, like seeing the globe as close to you as your friends on your Facebook page, for the whole planet Earth, right? And being able to imagine that and being able to let go of this belief of disconnection, this belief of smallness, and be able to connect to Abraham in many cases, where his name became, known in the world, became famous in the world, and connecting to that bracha and applying it into our life, but having the same kavana of Abraham Avinu and saying like, hey, you know what? I only want this to be able to share light. I only want this to be a vessel, so I can correct my soul at the highest level that could be achieved in this lifetime for myself. I want to reach my full potential. I don't want to waste my words speaking about things that are not Torah. I only have so many words. I don't want to spend my time walking places that have nothing to do with a mitzvah. I don't want to wear clothes that don't radiate with Avodas Hashem, Mordechai, Yosef. When I say Mordechai Yosef, like I'm not saying my name, Dafka. I'm saying, when Mordechai became in the palace, and Yosef became in the palace, both of them had royal garments, and being able to connect to that aspect of like of royal garments in terms of Avodas Hashem, and being able to continue to just move forward in imagining myself in a new way, and being okay with being excellent, being okay with doing something that's never been done before, because truthfully, that aspect of doing something that's never been done before is just being yourself. And it's really not that crazy, but we've been so like conditioned to see everything in group thought, group theory. And the fact of us doing things by ourselves is just like terrifying. Baruch atah Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.